Today, as we know that the topic is mitre attack, so we are going to explore what is this mitre attack is all about, and how it is relevant to us in terms of cybersecurity. So let me give my quick introduction. So my name is Vishal Pradhan. I am a team lead of Purple Team and also an offensive security researcher. And as mentioned in the screen, those are my various expertise that I've acquired in last 5 to 6 years. And this today's webinar is in collaboration with attck. Fine, let's get started. Now, okay. So this is our agenda for today. Like we'll be understanding overview of attack framework and how to use that attack framework to map the real world attacks, and also the purple team requirements. Why is this required? And I'll explain you in general what it is. And post exploitation, where I'll be showing you the demo. Okay, and I'll take the Q&As at the end of the session. Maybe 5 to 10 minutes. Now, let us try to understand the overview of attack framework. So, attack is from mitre, which is non-profit organization, and this mitre attack is globally accessible knowledge base in order to understand what are the tactics or techniques used by the adversaries, and this all information, whatever they show in their website, is based on the real world observations. So mitre started attack back in 2013, like to understand this techniques and procedures that any APT groups or adversaries uses. So this applies to various platforms like Windows, Mac OS, Linux, even the mobile devices which is using Android and iOS. Anyhow, in the later part of the webinar, I'll be giving you a further descriptions and further more details. So let us proceed next. Okay. Now what we will do is let us visit this website, mitre. I'm here. I just type mitre attack.mitre.org. So this is the website which is available like this. It's where you will get to know what are the techniques and what are the resources, everything, and whatever is mentioned over here, you can map it according to what can be used in the real world perspective of cybersecurity or any security organization that you are managing. For example, when I say tactics, right? Tactics, techniques, and procedures. So there are various categories which mitre defines, mitre attack. Like there are pre-attack sequence. What is pre-attack? This pre-attack sequence defines the stage like this. It is before actually you have done some damage to the victim or the target. So basically, these are the tactics used in the pre-attack cycle. Pre-attack cycle, like in cyber kill chain, right? It is just like, you are finding as much as information about the victim or about the target so that you can use it later on to compromise the target and to, further decide the objectives of the attack. So that is what you get in the pre-attack tactics. For example, you can see this tactics, priority definition planning, what it does. There are some descriptions like this. See, it consists of, some kit or the goals. What are the tactic goals that you plan to achieve? For suppose, for example, once I end up sending a phishing mail to my victim, what is my another set of actions that I should be doing along with the malware or in any form of an attack? Right? So you decide the various objectives in which there are various tactics like this, which you can go through always. It's always available. And by the way, these things gets updated every quarterly as far as I've known, because I follow this and this is what I've got, that information whichever you are seeing here gets updated every quarter. Okay. So likewise, you click on anything. What is the target selections? Means how any adversaries, right, decides for a target selections. So here you can see the techniques. Here T defines for techniques, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is their identity of the techniques. So likewise, when you click on everything, you get a various details. Likewise, there are many details like this of various tactics or techniques. So this is for pre-attacks, which you use before actually attacking the victim or the target. Now, when it comes to enterprise here, this enterprise is the one where you actually decide what happens after the attack has happened. It is basically a reference post-compromise. Okay, so which will basically help the defensive team or blue team to understand where is the loopholes they are leaving. When I see such kind of techniques used by various adversaries, what should I be doing at each and every assets or each and every point of intersection of any form of communications? So let me give you a proper overview of like this. See, enterprise techniques. Now you might be, you might be bothered, like there is so many information. How am I supposed to, look into any information like this? How it is relevant? How can I make it more relevant? So now, before starting, so mitre attack defines a various sets of APT groups. See, each and every APT groups, when you click on them, they have their own identity. For example, if you take example of APT1, so what is APT1? And this has been categorized according to publicly available information based on some analytics and observation, okay, which is helping us to understand like this we are seeing now. So it is a Chinese threat group. Likewise, if you click randomly on APT16, it is also Chinese based. APT29, what is this? This is a threat group attributed to the Russian government. Likewise, you can see the various categories of adversaries groups based on which you understand their objectives or where do they belong from and what is their identity in general. Okay, so this is to just give you an overview of the APT groups. So you can just click on anything, you'll get the various details down there like this. Enterprise, so and so. But then also it is not a convenient way to look into it, right? So it's like you have to scroll down, you have to click on certain APTs. So what if I can show you for certain APTs what is the tactics or techniques used by them? It will become a lot easier, right? So by that, let us go to matrices. Here, let me launch the navigator. Now, see, this is all the mitre attack framework. Like this is post-compromise. When I mention pre-attack, that is before compromise. Like when you gather information about the target, prepare yourself for command and control, maintenance, so and so. You prepare before the attack. This is after an attack, whatever you are seeing now. Here, there are so many, when I say tactics, by tactics, I mean this. When you see initial access, execution, persistence, all this row is a tactics. Now, whatever you are seeing down there in the column wise, those are the techniques. So this upper part is the tactics and this is the techniques. Now, how to generalize it? Like means how to make use of such information, like what would I do with it? How would I map this thing, like which technique is used by which adversaries? So for that, there is an easier way of filtering. Here, I'll select APT29. This is one of the adversary group. Okay, let me select this. Let me color it with red. Sales. Now, what do we have here? So over here, we have initial access. Suppose this APT29. Let me give this quickly APT29 group. APT29. Yeah. Now, This these are the various, see, when I'm highlighting on spear phishing attachment, there is a T1193. What does T indicates? A techniques. Okay. Likewise, these are the tactics which is involved, and this is the techniques which is involved for APT29. Whatever is highlighted in red, according to globally available information, this is the techniques that they usually follow. See, if you scroll down, there are various, you know, information marked in red or technique. So what do we understand in terms of APT29 here? See, suppose for example, spear phishing attachment. So when I say spear phishing attachment, okay, spear phishing, this is something, very general information. Spear phishing to get an initial access of the target. Now, if I want to know what are the techniques and what is this definition, then what would I do is right click on it and I'll view the spear phishing technique. It will give you the details like this, what is spear phishing is all about and what it plans to do and how it plans to do. And now, when you see the examples below, when I say spear phishing technique, so you could see various APT groups has their own set of, you know, techniques and procedures. Suppose for example, APT 19 via malicious attachment like RTF XLSM, right? See, another APT groups, they use spear phishing email containing Microsoft Office attachments. So likewise, these are the various techniques used by the various APT groups. And when I say procedures, see, there are three things. One is the tactics, which I mentioned. Let me navigate back again. This is the tactics. This is the techniques. And procedure is a sequential actions that you take during the entire attack cycle. For example, malware created by person A and malware created by person B. So it has its own set of instruction how it is supposed to execute. What is the first thing it should be doing? It's a step 1 till step 10. Likewise, there is a person B who decides the same objectives. They might have, different way of executing the sequence of instructions of that malware. So likewise, that is called procedure sections. So these are the various techniques which you are seeing, bypass user, anything. Anyhow, I have a video for it in which by taking APT29 groups, I'll just show you how you can use to understand and actually, execute the technique. So this is tactics and these are techniques. Likewise, when I go to second stage, for example, so what does it says? After initial access in this red to spear phishing and spear phishing link, let me go down there. Is there any other thing? No. In initial access, according to publicly available information, which is updated in mitre, spear phishing attachment and spear phishing link is the techniques used for initial access by APT29 groups. Likewise, let us see for execution stage. For execution, you can see the various techniques again. If you scroll down, they use execution via PowerShell or via client execution. If you scroll down, you'll get more. So that's the reason I marked it in red here, to make it a lot easier to differentiate. Likewise, if I want to understand what this is regarding the technique, you just have to right click and view technique again. It will give you a detail. What is this all about? And the interesting thing is for every technique that you want to view, it has some mitigations of various forms, and how to detect it. So these are some generalized information. You can use this mitigation. Maybe it may be sufficient, it may not be sufficient as per your organization needs, but this gives a pretty good amount of reference where you should be looking at least, or where you should be starting from in terms of mitigations. Now let me go back to the navigator. See, likewise, I'll be going through each and every phase and ultimately fulfill my objectives. Now, the interesting thing that you could observe here is there is nothing in exfiltration, there is nothing in impact section, right? So what this means is this APT group comes and get involved only till the stage of command and control. They have nothing to do with exfiltration. What do you mean by exfiltration? Like leaking some data from the client machine or from the victim which has been compromised, and trying to create an impact as such, anything, firmware corruptions, inhibit anything of data destructions. So this is how you understand if you're dealing with APT29 groups. So what was that APT29 groups again? Let us go over here. Groups, what does it usually do? Let us try to understand. Meantime, when it is loading, okay, it is loaded. So APT29, I gave you an example of, right? So this is a trade based, it's a group based on the Russian government and has operated since 2008. So here are the various description of that groups, and what are the groups associated with this APT? See, there are many group names, right? See, for example, take my name as an example, Vishal, right? I might go via my proxy name or anonymous names because I don't want to be identified in one way itself. I don't want to sound monotonous, if this attack is going on, this person is responsible, no, or this group is responsible. So there are certain groups of attackers who might come with a different name, but with the same techniques or tactics. See how this is how they have generalized in APT29. Whenever it comes to APT29, there are groups such as this, Causipier, Causibu. If you search for it, you get a description here in this link. Okay, this 1.8, right? So this is how you should understand and how you can just refer it. And techniques used. Techniques used by all these four groups in general is here. T stands for techniques, 1015 stands for its identity of that technique. There are various details which you can go through. I could have gone depth in this, but since this session is just about overview, I'll just give you an idea like what to do with this website and how to generally make use of it. That will give you a better idea at least. Now, let us go back to Attack Navigator. Just a second, let me check if there is any chat. Okay, I'm good to go. Fine. Likewise, if you want to filter certain APT groups, if you want to filter, for example, there is an APT group called like APT28, right? You just have to select. You can color it in another. Maybe let me choose yellow. Sorry, this is for entire thing. Let me choose. Let me only select this one. Just a second. Let me reload this page. Just a sec. Let me try the easier way. So let me go to matrices again. Let me launch the Attack Navigator. Now here we are seeing for APT29, right? So for example, let me keep APT29 itself. Okay. Let me filter a APT29, select it. I'll color it here with red. Done. This is APT29. If you want to add more, new layer, filter it, APT28, for example, if you want to mark it with yellow, mark it. This is APT28. You can just left click on it and edit it and write a name APT28. So this is how you can open a tab and understand what are the various tactics or technique. As you see here, by APT28 groups, they come till exfiltration stage, means they are sending the data in the compressed form. Okay, and they have nothing to do with the impact again. So these are the various categorization. Now, how to map with this real world environment or the real world attacks. For example, what is the priority of any organization in terms of this protections they require? For example, what is their crown jewels? Is it something? Is it okay if they come till command and control? Because this is to generalize which APT group falls, in their category of, in the recent attacks, whatever they have observed in their organization. So here you have seen data compressed. At any point of time in your organization, if you have seen the data compressed and the data has been leaked or exfiltrated to the attacker's command and control server, then this could be one of the APT groups that you should be referring. Likewise, there are many APT groups. Now, the interesting thing is, let me click on any techniques. Suppose this one, right? So when I click here, so you don't see APT 29 here, right? You see APT 1, APT 39, APT 33, 32, 31. So this is a generalization, you know, when you click on that, that means this is meant for that APT 28 groups only. Okay. Likewise, you can navigate for various APT groups and then understand phase wise. See, first initial access, don't just randomly go anywhere. First understand if somebody is trying to get an initial access or somebody has got an initial access via removal media. It could be CD drive, it could be a pen drive or any USB devices, right? Or trusted relationship, maybe anything, maybe a social engineering or you finding a valid accounts, correct? And execution, go phase wise, initial execution persistence like that. And just navigate according to the groups. But at any point of time, irrespective of APT groups, you find a familiarity, for example. Suppose you go through the entire details of tactics and techniques here and you want to randomly click on anything, right? For example, denial of service, network denial of service is very relevant because it has been recently happening a lot in my organization. Okay, so in that case, you can click here, you can view techniques. It will give you a description. Like this. No? So mitigation and detection as discussed. So what you have to do is here, I think we have to highlight, yes. So over here, let me randomly click on any other file. Sorry, techniques. Let me click here. See, there are various, I just clicked on, you know, one of the techniques, right? And this technique is adapted by various groups of attackers. Some are listed in APT with the number, some are listed with the name itself, like this. Okay, it is, again, it is as per the publicly available information. The information is arranged in this format by the mitre. So like this. So this is relevant to this kind of a groups who uses various tools, separate, various set of tools, you know, for achieving that objective. What was the objective? Exfiltration over alternative protocol. Okay. So here we have this. So likewise, you know, you can go over here, create a new layer, click here, select any APT groups. You can scroll down here for any APT groups that you find interesting and you have to select, you know, like I've said, see, for example, just a while ago, when I clicked on this net, where it is network, right? It didn't display much of information. It just displayed information in general. For example, like this, it doesn't tells you which groups, right? APT groups or something. It just generalizes this information, but you get a mitigation and a detection mechanism over here. Likewise, if I click on any other details like this structure wipe, sorry, let me click on data encrypted, which is not highlighted. So here again, you see the various groups, you know, who will use various tools. Somebody is using agent.btz, you know, the procedure. This is where it comes in terms of procedures, you know, what kind of tools or what kind of software you're using offensively to obtain your objectives, right? So these are the various APT groups who will use their own, you know, procedures to execute the objectives of their attack. Fine. Okay. Now, this is what we have here in terms of understanding APT groups and how we can actually make use of it. So for starters, it might be very difficult understanding, now the question could arise is, in initial access, should I be going through each and everything that has been highlighted? My answer would be yes, if you have a sufficient amount of time, because you cannot leave out anything, because this is something which has been validated by the analyst and it has been added in the mitre. You know, they might be using either removable media, for example, either phishing attachment. So any of this thing is relevant. Of course, it is relevant, right? For example, some organization may say, or some security personnel might say, we don't allow any removable media, right? If that is the case, then if they are sure this can be listed out, then that is a call. But I would generally recommend to go through each and every, techniques. So that will help you better understand your defensive mechanism. So me coming from a blue team experience background, so what I've observed as a blue team engineer, as a defensive engineer, is uh, blue team engineer has to be successful all the time, but the adversaries can be successful once or twice. It doesn't matter. They have lots and lots of time, because they are not losing anything, but we are losing business for customer whom are we providing the security, right? So that is the thing. You cannot ignore anything as a blue team engineer, because that is something the difficult part, but this is a challenge that should be accepted as well. My suggestion. Fine. Now, what I'll show you is a small video that I have created in my lab. For example, I showed you T100 something, right? It could be any techniques. So in this lab, I have one Kali machine and I have one victim Windows machine, which is part of a domain controller. Let me play this. So it is played. Okay. Now this is the, by the way, before I start this, um, in Kali machine, whatever you are seeing, I'm using the emulation, uh, emulation tools, or framework already provided by Mitre. I got this from GitHub. Okay. So I'll just mention in the, later on, whenever I upload this video, I'll mention in the link, where did I downloaded this, tools from in order to emulate this attack. Okay, now let's go on. We have Kali machine here and we have victim machine here. So we are going by the scenario post-exploitation. Why? Once the machine is compromised, let's see what is the techniques that attacker by this post-exploitation will take one example of one APT. For example, let us take example of APT 29. So here, let us observe. So I'm loading the tool. On the left, on the right side, I'm waiting for the victim to click on, any executables or any word file. It could come in any executable or any clickable form, right? So what I'm doing now is I'm using some exploit as a multi-handler, which is quite common to handle the connections once if this machine on the right side is compromised. So here I'm trying to set a payload for Windows reverse TCP connections. Okay, everything is good. L host. So here, this is a recorded video in which I just recorded recently. So these are some details which I already set up. Okay. Now I'm waiting for user to click on that run file. Once it is played, you see the adversary has got the shell, right? Now background the session. We have one session created. That is what the session we have got of the victim machine. Now let us search for the techniques. As you can see here, this thing T1015. What does it indicates for? T1015. Let us go back, and since I gave an example of APT29 group, so let us go back here 1015. So you can search directly here also. T1015. What is it? Accessibility feature, right? Or file permission or remote desktop. So here, this is the techniques, this highlighted T015, right? This is the techniques I'm trying to use now in my virtualized environment. To just give you an example, how you can test it yourself as well. So go over here. Just a second. Let me show you from the real video. We were go to a point. Okay, here, right? Now you can search for any techniques that, because this tools or this framework, whatever, or emulation tool, whatever I've installed, has a various techniques in the form of this T1015 and whatever the techniques available in the from the mitre side. So I'll be using this technique as a post exploitation because the machine is already compromised, right? Just a second. Up to set a session. Yes, since we got a session one, right? Now, see, interesting thing. So what do we get here? We use one technique against this Windows machine in which we wanted to get an administrator rights using this T1015, right? But the execution failed, saying that this machine on the right side does, when I try to exploit and get the administrative rights, I'm not able to do so. That means at least more than basic, it is, configured securely to some extent. Like I cannot just attack the victim machine and get administrative rights just like that. So this technique didn't work. Now we'll try to use other techniques. By the way, whatever the techniques is here, I'm using from APT29 groups. Now the technique has changed. 1088. So this is to bypass again Windows bypass USS. Like I've said, if you want to know what T1088 is, you know how to find it out, right? See what has happened. Now, when I use T1088 techniques, so by name, we will not generally understand what it is, but here module gives you some information, right? But let us try to generalize and understand what is T1088. So how you can do over here is T1088. Bypass user, select it. Let me try it in another way, easier. Create a new layer. Says T1088, right? Select, let me color it. So this or this is the techniques which either comes in the tactics of defense evasion or privilege escalation. Now, when I want to view the details, what it is, so this is the details of this techniques, which is used by various APT groups, and APT29 is the one which we are using now. Now, if I'm able to execute that attack, right? That means that is what I mean. If I'm able to execute that in my machine, so is there any mitigation technique that I should be applying for these techniques? Yes. So these are some reference you have. So that is the reason for every techniques, there are some mitigations which you can generally understand. For more details, you can go to the link, right? And how the detection mechanism it is, how the mitigations, there is for each and every technique it is there for most of the technique as far as I have seen. Now let us see and explore further in the video. So no, this will not be required. Okay. Again, over here, 1070 technique I tried to use with respect to the session that we achieved earlier, right? When victim clicked on my payload or malicious executable files. It also says, the session does not have administrative rights, means this model could not be executed. That means it's a good thing. This is what I meant. This is what I meant when I say, you should try for all the techniques that is available, at least, which people have confirmed that, yes, this is the techniques used by the attackers and it's confirmed. See, some of the techniques work for admin privileges, right? If you want to bypass admin privileges, some of them doesn't work. If one doesn't work, there might be another way or another set of tools. Now what we'll do is, we'll search for another technique, which is this, which is listed in that APT 29 only. 1122 is the technique I'm using with the session that I've already established. So you can see this has been bypassed. This technique for this, this Windows machine on the right side has been bypassed. And what was the technique being used? Techniques used was, just a sec, 1122. Okay. Now what is this 1122? Go here, 1122. Select it. Give it a different set of colors. Here, right? 1122. View techniques. If it was able to execute, used by various APT groups here. What is the mitigation? How it can be detected? Okay. So this is the importance of understanding each and every techniques. Okay. So generally this is what I wanted to show you. Likewise, likewise for every other set of techniques that was defined in the rate, right, for APT 21, you can go on executing by T1088, pass the ticket, any form of an attack like that. So there is a, tools or a framework available to test that. Like I said, when this video will be uploaded into YouTube, I'll be mentioning the link where you can download that, that tool from, or that framework from, where you can test all of this, whichever I showed in the video right now. Right. Now, coming to one point. So why is purple team requirements, why it is required? So usually, since I come from a background of, which I'm currently involved in as well, as a VAPT, I've usually seen non-transparent communication between red team and a blue team, due to which it will ultimately impact the blue team, because they are the one who is protecting the security of any organization, right? So when you involve this purple team requirements, so you remove this win or lose mentality, which will increase the transparency between red and blue team. Okay. For example, one of my red guy, what if, one of the red guy, it could be external red team also, it need not to be from your team. It could be from external red teaming, in which there should be a transparency of communication. Okay, this is the attack I'm trying to do. Please let me know if you observe something in your defensive tools over there, or else red teaming can help in various ways. I think you should be checking on that tool, because I'm doing this form of an attack, right? If you are doing some attack based on phishing, there is no point of looking into a firewall, right? So like the such kind of transparency will be there, such kind of, productive mutual exchange of information would be there, which will increase the, efficiency of effectively, implementing all of this security strongly in any organization. So that is the reason purple team requirement is must this stage. Either you have in-house red and blue team, or either external, doesn't matter. This should be created. Fine. I'm done. As of this, yes, I'm done here. So now, feel free to ask any questions over the chat. I'm ready to take question now. If anybody has any questions, or if you want me to repeat something. Any questions? Can you hear me? We still have time. So because I was expecting lots of Q&As. So you can ask anything. Okay. I've not got any questions so far. That means my assumption would be like you have understood whatever I've explained till now. Okay. Okay. So if there is no any further questions, I would conclude this webinar. But if you have any, I still have 10 minutes of time. I can take up any questions related to the presentation I did today. Okay then. Fine. Thank you all for joining this session. I hope this session was helpful. Anyhow, like I mentioned, this presentation will be uploaded in the YouTube. If you have any queries over there, you can personally ask over there in the our YouTube channel. So I'll be happy to answer any form of questions that you have regarding today's presentation. Thank you all.